What is it that happens when you allow a nation to name your new cheeseburger? Well, you're going to find out with a lot of laughter from myself because people are amazing. And on this podcast with Jason Harris, who is the founder and CEO of Mechanism, an ad agency, and the author of The Soulful Art of Persuasion, we have a great time talking about human nature and how people think and what motivates them, and in turn, what motivates us. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast as much as I did, because I really enjoyed this one.
All right.
Jason.
Hey, what's up?
What's happening, man?
What's up, man?
We now hold the record for the most interesting conversation
before the
conversation that we've had on a podcast.
Wow.
That's good. We won't even go into it.
My head's not on straight now.
Yeah. We're just going to leave people with the mystery of what transpired before. Wow. Was that a boat?
I think that was the time for us to start talking.
Yeah.
That's a clock.
That was, what was that? There was a foghorn sounding.
There is the Hudson River is right behind
Hudson
you.
River?
So that was a boat.
That was a boat. And that is actually a foghorn.
I'm not a horn expert, but I think it was probably a foghorn.
Yeah, but it's not foggy. So what was he doing? Just showing off?
Maybe someone got in his way, and that's his only way he can say, get out of my way.
It's a ludicrous, move, bitch, get out the way horn.
Yeah, exactly.
Also.
Yeah, it's that's his horn.
I understand.
I don't know, is there another horn on a boat or just a foghorn?
Nope, probably just one horn.
So
it's used for fog, used for swimmers, for paddle
boarders. Could have been a jet skier. Could have been
anybody.
Swimmer. Training for a triathlon. We don't know. No.
He's just got one horn. He doesn't have here's the foghorn. And
here's the ludicrous horn.
Here's the
foghorn. Yeah.
Well, we're obviously not sea captains, but what you are is captain of probably one of the dopest offices. I mean, I've been in a lot of places, especially in New York City. This is one of the most amazing places I've seen, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I went to your other place. It was dope. This place shits on that place.
Yeah, that's why we moved up to this place.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it shits on it.
No, it kind of shits on it.
All right, fine.
I mean, the other place was cool.
Yeah.
But the highlight was that gorilla with the plant mohawk.
Yeah.
That was your centerpiece. You know now where that guy is?
Falls in the
now
background.
he's just kind of hanging out in the corner because it's not a big deal because your fucking whole place is so dope.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I
appreciate that.
Killing it.
You know, that's the advertising business. Yeah. You know what I mean? You gotta look successful.
Yeah. So it's kind of like being a rapper.
Similar, very similar.
You gotta, even if you're not like selling gold records, platinum records, you gotta have a gold or platinum chain.
That's true. That's true. But no one ever made an advertising agency horn. You know what I mean? So that's like the difference is rappers are a little more prestigious, I think. You know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of rappers would like to have this office.
That's
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So
yes, sir.
Tell us about your agency.
Mechanism, we're a creative agency. Been around about
C.
Huh?
No C.
MEK.
Yeah.
ANISM. And we've been around 13 years. Came up with a name. Tommy Means, one of my partners, came up with the name Mechanism. And we went online to get the name with the CH, and it was taken. So instead of doing a .net or some other bullshit, we just changed it to a K. And that's how we got
Stronger move.
Yeah, strong move, yeah. But, I'll create a better story after this podcast on the name. But we're a creative agency. We got 4 offices, New York, SF, Chicago, Seattle. We work on big brands like Charles Schwab, Alaska Airlines.
Alaska Airlines is pretty good.
Yeah, it's good.
Actually, it's kind of a sleeper.
Airline. It is a sleeper. Right.
It's kind of a sleeper. Like, I really kind of hate most airlines, and I took Alaska.
They treat you well.
And Alaska
Their
was
customer
like,
service is no joke.
Oh.
No joke.
All right.
Yeah, they're a great brand.
You're not responsible for that, but nonetheless, good choice.
No, we don't train the employees, but we talk about their qualities in our advertising. Peloton's a big one. We've been working on Peloton for 4 years. Mm-hmm. When they were trying to sell a $3,500 bike, in-home bike, so we've sort of seen their meteoric rise. It's been a great brand. Yeah. You ever been on a Peloton?
We have a Peloton in the suite that we have here in New York. And that's the closest I've been to it. Whitney tried to turn it on, it wouldn't turn on, and then I didn't do it. But I'm not a big bike dude. Like, I don't like going to, what is that, Soul Cycle?
Yeah.
And I don't like
Don't
doing
act like
those.
you don't know what it's called, dude.
Yeah.
What's that? Soul Cycle?
What's that thing?
Yeah, what's
Meanwhile,
that thing?
I'm doing tap backs all day long.
You know what tap back is? Jesus Christ. Uncovering more of your Soul Cycle knowledge. Unreal. You hit all the corners. You know what you're doing. Yeah. Peloton's
I've
way
been
better.
there before.
Peloton blows Soul Cycle away. It's the best.
Yeah, because you're like, so you're connected virtually to a bunch of different people. You're cycling. They got little weights on the back of the bike. You can like pump it out a little bit. Little beauty bells, you know.
Yeah.
Get
But
some
it's
shit done.
it's a community. You connect with the riders. It's great. It's awesome. On-demand classes. Anyways, that's a brand. We do other brands. HBO, Hotel Tonight.
HBO.
Yeah, we do a lot of brand work for HBO.
Man, I feel like that's an easy one.
Miller Coors do a lot of
like.
beer
Tell me
brands.
how much heavy lifting is involved in HBO. You're like, watch Game of Thrones, and everybody's like, okay, you know, like that one's like, you got that one, right?
Yeah, but they think about HBO like all their competition. They got like Hulu, Netflix, you know.
Netflix is legit.
That's pretty big.
Hulu.
So you have to remind people that HBO has the
Hulu's
the
like
best
your
shit.
old office, and HBO's like your new office.
Man, I kind of wish you never went to my old office. The amount you're shitting on it, you know? It's just an office, man. Life's like stepping stones, you know? Now we're at a nicer office. Don't mean the old one sucked ass. It's just not a different office.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's Hulu and there's HBO. And there's just different levels to the game.
All right, fine.
Yeah. So, but tell me, no, I do want to go into this though.
Holy shit.
As you die and buy time, have it. What's that candy bar where it's like, take a second, bro? What is it? Eat a Snickers? Like, take a second, bro? Take a second, bro? No, we won't. We ain't cutting this shit out. We're going to let him die on the podcast. That's the way we roll, authentically.
Okay.
I want to know. I want to know the genius ways that you promote HBO, because HBO is fucking, like, it's undeniable. It's an undeniable force. What are you going to do? Not watch Westworld? What are you going to do? Not watch Game of Thrones? Like, if you don't watch those, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what
so
to
we
tell
did
people.
a brand campaign. No, I can't talk. Hold on. Fuck me. I feel like I got roofied.
With your own water?
Oh, yeah, this is my place.
Yeah. It's a home game.
Sorry. Home court.
Yeah.
So, we would do brand campaigns for HBO that would showcase, all of their different shows.
Uh-huh.
Fuck me.
God. Oh, I can't wait to leave this in.
My God.
I can't wait to. It's 100% getting left in.
No.
Yeah, dude.
No,
yeah,
dude.
we don't edit anything. This is gonna be
That's
fantastic.
not true.
It's gonna be fantastic.
Remember when I gave you that free T-shirt
Yeah.
and that nice book?
Yeah. Some bartering action going on.
What was the name of that HBO campaign? It's What Connects Us. Thank you. Oh my God, dude.
That's the most severe water choking I've ever seen. That's
It's still happening. It's still happening.
You fully waterboarded yourself.
It's still happening. When does it end? Oh my God, I'm tearing up. Fuck.
This is incredible.
Yeah. What was the question?
What connects us?
Oh yeah, so we did a campaign called "It's What Connects Us," where we flew to every HBO set.
Yeah.
Threw up a screen behind them and had all the characters do the HBO sound, the opening HBO sound. And we cut together all of those ahs to remind people that when you hear that HBO sound, like the best entertainment on TV is coming.
Yeah.
And that was our brand campaign.
That makes sense. All right, tell me through, because I had
So
like
it's
a little.
not just like, dragon killed someone. Like, watch the show.
I had like a little tiny little marketing agency before this whole Onnit thing, before this whole thing, and it was basically just me coming up with ideas. Well, Fleshlight was one of the clients, which was my stepdad's company.
Yeah.
So that was an easy one.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to sell Fleshlight, so I didn't really have to hustle that
You
hard
didn't?
for that one.
No.
It's like, put your dick in it. It feels good. Like,
Right.
I don't know. It was like the least
That was
hard
the
work.
tagline?
It was like the least hard work.
You could have tried a little harder on that.
I didn't need to.
Oh, okay.
I didn't need to. It's
Do you feel like he had to hire you?
No, he was very fortunate to have had me.
Oh, he was fortunate?
He was fortunate
Oh,
to
okay.
have had me. I helped that enterprise quite a bit. But I think I'm not the only one that could have, because as I said, it was like easy. Yeah. I would just happen to be able to get in there and kind of figure it out. But it was a really easy way to get, like, straight out of college. Like, I don't know shit about marketing, advertising, e-commerce, direct to consumer, building an email list, like CRMs, like this whole, I didn't know shit about shit, but the fleshlight was so easy because, like, people are horny. Yeah. And, really the tagline is a variation of put your dick in it. Yeah. Which is like not hard to sell to horny men. Right. You know what I mean? So it was like the easy, like, stepping stone.
I feel like that is a hard product to sell.
It's not.
Really?
It's not. Nope. It's not.
Okay.
Like, at least from my experience, it was just like,
where do you keep a fleshlight in your house? You know what I mean?
You keep it on. Well, that's the clever part about it, because it looks like if you don't know, you don't know, and if you know, well, you know. So then you're not going to be.
What else would it look like?
Well, it could just look like an open vagina, just out in the wild, just a vagina out in the wild. But instead, it's in a flashlight container. I mean, it's bigger than a flashlight would be. It would be a very odd shaped flashlight. It's in like a flashlight container, so it's somewhat discreet. Which is part of the reason my stepdad invented it, because he's got daughters, and, like, you don't want these vaginas hanging out. And a lot of people do as well. So you, like, put the lid back on, and it's like,
Oh, I see. There's like a covering for it.
Yeah, it's like a whole covering for it, and like a lid, so it's all like covered up. Right. And then you just put it under wherever your program is. I don't know, usually in the bathroom somewhere.
Yeah. All right.
And that's how you do it.
Okay.
So, yeah. What was it? So we got totally derailed on the fleshlight. So,
you were talking about marketing.
Yeah, I was marketing.
You started doing marketing. You had a company.
Right. And that was like where you get the foothold. But then it was just me. It was just me coming up with the ideas, because I had like a small agency. We work with other things, skincare, even with like gold mining, nutraceuticals. Like, at one point we work with like a variety of different realty, like a variety of different companies. And, like, I didn't have a team. Like, I had people I could bounce ideas off of. But, like, at this size, what I'm curious about is, like, that idea for HBO. Yeah. Like, tell me about, like, the inception of that idea.
So there's a whole process, like, at this level of where you get briefed by a client, which could be 20 documents with insights and consumer research and all kinds of things. Or it could be a one-pager where they have the ask of what they're trying to accomplish. Right. So for something like that, it might be about reminding people that we have the best entertainment on television. Like, that could be the cliff notes of the brief, And then we have a team of strategists that will crack, based on the audience insight, how to talk to the audience, and they'll write our own brief, which will be given to a creative team. So the creative teams are like art directors, copywriters, could be designers, creative directors. So there's teams that all they do is come up with ideas, right? And pitch and sell them. And they'll get the brief and then try to crack it. And then there's brand management, which has the relationship with the client. So there's all these departments, basically. It's not just like chaos. Yeah. So there's like relationship owners, there's strategy people, there's creative teams, there's production people. And it's sort of like it's like a factory of
assembly line.
Thank you. And that's how the sausage gets made. And by the time it gets to production, the creative strategy brand team, they've sold an idea to the client. And when they sell an idea, then you have to figure out how to pull it off and make it, and then it goes into production. Then the idea comes out of production, and it's whatever form it takes, an event, an ad, digital campaign, whatever. That production then goes into the media team, and the media team has to figure out where to place it so the most eyeballs engage and see it. And so everyone plays their role. It's the dance of advertising, right? And that's how it works. And it's less like one person does the idea overseas. It's a team.
You got a full team, which just makes the idea better, which then allows you to have bigger clients, and then allows you to get this big ass office. Right? Like eventually,
and part of doing advertising for 20 years was the inspiration behind the book, which was, if you think about advertising at the big brand level, you have to, first of all, you have to get that whole team inspired to do the work and believe in it and understand what the brief is and what you're trying to accomplish. Then they have to crack the big idea. Then you have to sell that idea to the client. Mm-hmm. And then if they buy off on the idea, you make the idea. Then you have to sell it to the audience, who ultimately is the decision maker.
Right.
Because the audience has to come back and watch your show, buy your deodorant, put on your sneakers. It's up to them if that whole thing worked.
Yeah.
And so if we're selling and persuading internally to the client and then to the consumer, are there lessons there that I could take and extract and make them broad for anyone? Because all day long we're persuading people about everything, right? Like you're persuading your girlfriend where to go to dinner, right? You're persuading your kids to get their act together and catch the school bus.
Yeah.
You know, you're persuading your boss to give you a raise. You're trying to get that job. All day long there's a sort of cosmic dance of persuading people, whether it's conscious or unconscious.
And I think so. The way that people have looked at marketing is from that kind of Mad Men, Camel cigarettes lens. Like, these are the dark arts.
Right.
Like this is the black magic. This is the people that are building the two towers and have the orcs down in the fucking basement of the fires of our subconscious, pulling out the ores from the earth and digging a little too deep and calling out Balrog from the fucking bowels, right? Like that's kind of the idea of what
you went deep there.
Yeah, I did. I went deep Tolkien on that one.
Named a lot of characters.
Yeah,
and everything.
I did. I went deep.
Okay.
So that's what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
But that way, with the transparent nature of everything that's going on right now, that way isn't going to fly anymore.
Right.
And brands aren't interested in participating in that black magic in the same way that they were. And so I think that's where yourself and this book, The Soulful Art of Persuasion, actually finds its footing in saying like, all right, granted, black magic has been played, right? Like we put cigarettes in the hands of people to convince people to smoke one of the most addicting things on the face of the earth, that we put chemicals in to make more addictive than the tobacco itself, which is already addictive. And this was all fucking black magic from the drop, right? In a lot of ways. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the black magic. We're talking about how to actually convince people that something could add benefit and value to their life.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
white magic.
There's it's funny you say that Mad Men thing. I read a Gallup poll recently that said of the least trusted professions in the world, it was called advertising practitioner, which I guess is a Mad Men. Advertising practitioner was it was like the least trusted professions in the world. Advertising practitioner was only above congressman and used car salesman. So like where people think what we do is pretty dark magic, gnarly. Like we're trying to convince people to do something that they otherwise wouldn't do.
Right.
But it's really not what it's about today. And I think the world we live in with fake news, phishing scams.
Wait, what is fake news? I don't even know what fake news is anymore.
Fake news is like...
I know Donald Trump says it all the time.
It's like misinformation. It's just putting stuff out there into the world.
So it's like a headline that isn't real.
But if it is real, you can then claim that it's fake news. And so then it becomes, even the real stuff becomes not real. So you don't even know, people don't know who to trust or what's real and what isn't real anymore. And so we live in a world, an age of distrust, really.
Yeah.
And so... when you think about advertising, or you think broadly about persuasion, there's, in the book, it talks a lot about how I've been able to be successful, which is bucking the Tolkien stuff and really putting your true self out there. The old adage, always be closing. There's a whole section about never be closing, because when you think about always be closing, which is a lot of what you think of in advertising and making the sale, that's all transactional thinking, and that expires. But if you think about playing the long game and you don't think about ever closing, you end up building relationships and you end up being successful because you're building relationships based on trust. And that's what you try to do with your personal relationships, and that's what you try to do with consumers for the brands that you work on.
Yeah. Wait, how gross is that? I mean, how gross is the always be closing mentality in every circumstance? What if you're on a date? Always be closing,
That's right,
bro.
Yeah, ABC,
like
ABC.
That means that's some black magic bullshit that you're pulling rather than just being like, hey, you having fun? Like, what are you always be closing? That's terrible. If you're in marketing, terrible. If you're in fucking sales, like if you're a car salesman or something, always be closing. Also terrible.
Yeah.
Like in anything, that's kind of terrible.
It's always short game thinking. It's like that, it's like that night for a date. It's that one sale for a car, instead of building for the long term.
Yeah.
So it's sort of bucking it's counterintuitive to what you think of as selling and persuasion today. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I built my career.
Well, and I think one of the things that you have to have for that to work is you have to have a legit product.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're selling some piece of shit, you better be going straight fucking deep Balrog bowels of the earth type of black magic.
Yeah, it's true. It's that saying is nothing kills. What's that saying? Nothing kills a bad product like good advertising. Because if you advertise something and then they buy it, it's going to be found out. The brand's going to get smashed. And really, with the advent of social media, that's really when the dark magics didn't work anymore. Because when you put stuff out there and people can comment on it and you have a dialogue with the people that are buying it,
and you just
they will
Google it
call
and
you
there's a
on
bunch
your
of
shit
reviews
all day long. And before, you could just throw a bunch of money at it with one message and it would work.
Yeah.
And now you can't do that anymore. And that's why brands, just like humans now, are trying to align with a purpose. And they're trying to say that just existing for the sake of profit's not enough. We have to stand for something greater. We have to have a purpose, a reason why we're doing something. Like, what's the soulful idea behind a brand that's more important than just selling the product? What do they stand for?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of brands that do that really well.
Yeah. So a purpose and a product that are legitimate. So anybody trying to start anything, because there's a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, like those two things are essential. I think like so many times people get caught up in we could totally sell this. But like, that's the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's not like whether you could sell it. It's whether you could give someone something that they're so stoked about, they're going to tell their friends about, and they're going to come back and get another one and the next version of that thing.
Yeah.
Because it's actually like legit.
Right.
It works.
And you believe in it.
And
there's another rule in there of, never sell something you wouldn't buy yourself. And a lot of people in this business and a lot of businesses, you're just selling stuff because that's what you're hired to do, but you don't believe in it. And if you're doing that, you'll never win, and you'll never be successful. You'll never sell.
Yeah, it's like when Shaq is in a Kia, I think that was actually the campaign.
Right.
Maybe it was a Buick,
or
something like that. I was like, Shaq is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's not in that fucking. He's in a Maybach.
Right.
Like, I know that for sure.
I've seen him in it.
I've seen him in it.
When you thought of starting Onnit, did you think of? Obviously, you wanted to sell, make money, and be successful. Did you think of what would be the broader purpose for Onnit that you felt in your gut that you had to do it?
Well, the human being is the basis for every single thing that we're capable of doing, right? Like, this is our home, and if our home is being threatened, then everything else goes out the window.
Yeah.
Like, try to convince a sick person to be generous to their neighbors.
Right.
Or to help people, or to show unconditional love, or to see the person on the other side of the political party as their friend when they're sick and in pain and don't have any energy. Good fucking luck. Like, there's nothing that can happen when the body is not taken care of and nourished, right? So this is the foundation of all positive things. Really starts in the body. Yeah, you can override pains in the body and body conditions with really strong mindset, excellent spirituality. Like, you can override it, but the body is the base that we all start from. So it was really about how do we take care of the body and optimize, get it in the best state possible, performing at the best level possible, so that whatever the fuck we want to do, we have the best chance to do it. And that's still the principle that we have from inside and out. It's like, all right, let's get home base taken care of, And then from there, we can do whatever cool shit we want to do.
And then if you're helping take care of those, the broader purpose is you're helping take care of people's home base so they can live more productive, successful lives.
Exactly.
You're helping take care of that base.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of Onnit. And then, all right, purpose of the podcast. Well, then we'll start branching out into more, all right, well, what's your business? Like, this is going to be something that's going to help a lot of people in business, and there'll be others that help people in spirituality or dealing with emotions or relationship or mentality or all of these other things. But ultimately, like, nobody's going to care at all if, you're got 103 fever because you haven't been taking care of your immune system, or your gut biome is so shitty that you haven't produced a quarter of the amount of serotonin you're supposed to. So you're just all fucking depressed in a dark room with the shades, closed down, and you can't go because really you think you have something wrong with your brain when really you got something wrong with your gut because you haven't been getting enough probiotics in your system. Like, that's the stuff that's like, we got to kind of help correct so that people can actually live and actualize some of their potential.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like
so that's why it's worked, and the products are good, and there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah, products are awesome. I feel like I should take some probiotics right now.
You should.
I know. That's how I'm out in the dark corner.
Dude, you know what? You know what? The future, let me talk to you about the future of medicine. Right. Future of medicine, fecal transplants.
Is that right?
I'm telling you, man. Future of medicine is fecal transplants. Check this out. They have studies out now where they take a really obese, lazy rat, and they have a really energetic go-getter rat that's just constantly turning up the treadmill and fucking shitting on the other rats because it's such a badass, like the LeBron James of rats. They switch those rats' gut biomes through these fecal transplants. They switch the gut biomes of both these rats. The LeBron James rat then all of a sudden becomes lazy and fat and doesn't want to do anything.
No way.
Yep. And then the other rat starts to perk up, starts to work out, starts to flex its little rat muscles, and becomes a bad motherfucking rat. Because the gut controls so much of who we are.
Jesus Christ, dude.
And they already have fecal transplants available for certain conditions like diverticulitis, and I think it's diverticulitis, but it's some other different conditions that they already have it allowed. But the benefits
you
of
can
actually
do that. Humans can do fecal transplants.
Well, it's not allowed except if you have this. It's not diverticulitis. It's some other kind of condition. Ryan, if you want to look up what kind of condition you have to get a fecal transplant.
That's fucking insane.
When they have like fecal banks for people who do this, because it's actually one of the ways that you cure some of these difficult to cure bacterial infections in your gut. But one of the things that's going to be really effective is like if you're really depressed or something like that, or like have some issues going on. Like, you're going to be able to find some healthy, bad motherfucker's feces, and they're going to transplant that into your colon and repopulate your gut with somebody else's probiotic bacterial, and your whole life's going to change. But right now, we don't have that available. And it's just one of those crazy things that as soon as people get more aware of how important this is, because right now we're taking oral probiotics, a lot of them get killed. We do our best to make sure that they get delivered, but it's not going to be the same as like delivering it straight into the large intestine and then like into the intestines and actually flushing them with a whole new bacterial colony. Like, that's going to change the game.
Do you believe you should be flushing out your system regularly?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends. I think there's a benefit to cleansing because the body spends a certain amount of energy digesting and assimilating food. And when it doesn't have to do that, it can go to like the housekeeping programs and start to like work on some of the stuff that it's kind of pushed to the side because from the regular efforts. But I think it can be overblown, the whole cleansing phenomenon, but I think it's also important when it's important. Yeah. And so I think it's a combination.
Yeah. It's awesome.
A combination of both.
So I love that. I mean, it's fascinating, not the fecal, that's fascinating too.
Yeah.
But the Onnit story is it's such a good story to tell, I think. And I don't know how much you position that in your marketing efforts, or if the brand is so big now and the products are so successful, you kind of don't need to get back to that home base story. But storytelling is, I mean, a lot of the book is based on storytelling, and storytelling. There's this psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, who said that the brain, the mind, is a story processor, not a logic processor. And the way we go through life as the universe is only storytellers, That's how we transport information. That's how we have the belief systems that we have or shared values. It's all through stories. It's not through logic or argument. It's through storytelling. And so storytelling, when you think about your life or you think about a brand or whatever you're trying to accomplish, it all really fundamentally, in my opinion, starts with storytelling. And storytelling is the most powerful tool of persuasion that there is. And the first time that I sort of understood storytelling was with Kiss, the band Kiss. You ever listen to Kiss?
I have. Yeah.
They're terrible. Like their music is not.
Wanna rock and roll.
Yeah, you know that song. Yeah. So
yeah.
like you and I could write a million songs better than any Kiss song in like 5 minutes if we sat down and put our mind. It's all so bass, you know?
Right.
It's just like the most basic fucking lyrics you've ever read, and they can't really sing, and they can sort of play their instruments. And when they
you must be a musician because you're speaking this with some authority.
Yeah, I am speaking with authority. They, in New York, they started playing clubs to like 20 people. And, you know, now they're like selling out Madison Square Garden, 20,000 people. And what they did, the big difference is not all of a sudden they made amazing music. They started to craft a story and the mythology. And they started creating characters, you know, the demon, the Star Child, the Spaceman, the Catman. And they created these stories and this mythology that they stayed in character with and where the band came from. And that is what catapulted them to success, storytelling. And as a kid, when I was sort of like an awkward kid growing up and I wasn't sure what I was interested in or what I was trying to find, I stumbled upon Kiss and like, you know, the Kiss Army. It's like this crazy big community. And I became a member of the Kiss Army and like traded stuff with Kiss Army fans. And I mean, I was like,
and it was the storytelling.
It was storytelling that like captivated all those fans to love Kiss. And we would like call up radio stations and get them played because no one wanted to play Kiss because their music sucked.
So explain to me, I want to understand more about what a story is and what a story isn't. You know, like how do you define a story? Because you use a couple things, a legend, a myth, a story.
Those are all stories,
you know, like, and obviously like the heroes, you can talk about Guy Ritchie talking about there's only one story and that's the hero's journey. But this is, what you're using it is a different way because that's like a whole story like Pinocchio or fucking Aladdin or some other, you know, thing like that. Like I understand that as a story.
Yeah.
But like, what are you talking about when you're using the word story?
So that's a good question. I mean, I look at storytelling as, I mean, it's pretty broad, right? But it's, you know, you think it can be like the creation of man, like that's a story, right? Like if you think of
Adam and Eve,
if you think of the Sistine Chapel, like that's an example I love. Like if you think of the Sistine Chapel, and I guess if you relate it to advertising, like the brand was, what they were selling was Catholicism, and the client, I guess, was the Pope, you know, and the best advertising agency at the time was Michelangelo. You know, they got the best fucking artists of the time, and they painted this
best production team,
yeah. And they painted, you know, the creation of man, and that's one tool that they use to get that story, to create this set of belief systems across. So, I mean, it can be your personal Onnit story from a founder's perspective, why you started something. That's a story. It can be, you know, Harry Potter book series is a fucking story. Like,
that one's easy to get. You know what? I was just thinking, your coffee machine has a video screen in it and tries to tell a story while you're waiting for the coffee to come out. It's like this dude's hands and the beans and these like red coffee berries and like it's just telling the story of how naturally it's grown and where it's coming from and how it's been carefully processed and I guess like that's them telling their story. And probably you can just put whatever. I'm sure you do put good beans in there, but you probably put whatever fucking beans you want in there.
I don't know what beans to go with.
And then it would be the same movie that was playing in there. Right. But the assumption is when you're watching that, like, Wow, we were actually joking about it because it's a little overdone.
I didn't know our coffee maker told a story.
Your coffee maker
That's
tells
amazing.
a visual story as you're like waiting for the coffee.
Right.
Or as it's going. And I think that's, I mean, I guess if you look at something like Tom's has a hell of a story.
Tom's has a great story.
You know?
Yep.
And that story is you buy this pair of shoes, somebody else gets a pair of shoes.
Right,
or like Warby Parker that does the eyeglasses that does the same thing.
Too. Yeah,
you know, like buy these glasses, fix somebody's.
Yep. So those companies' stories, those are purpose-driven stories. Like what they're trying to accomplish with the brand, right? Those are all about purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think trying to be a company that gives back. You know, that's what their story is. But I think stories for people can be long and myriad, and I mean, you tell stories. That's like your whole thing.
Yeah,
like you're a storyteller through and through. And I think that is just more powerful than if you went on and tried to sell everything for Onnit only by like numbers, facts and numbers and data.
Benefits,
that's just information.
Yeah,
that's not like a story for why or the end result, why it's going to help you in your life and go on. And advertising needs to be wrapped in. There's like the medicine, which is the nuts and bolts of the product, and then the wrapped around it, that emotional piece has to be a story. You know, and story can take many forms, I think.
And do you think sometimes mythologies develop around something that probably they haven't even told, or maybe so? Like, all right, you're wearing a Rolex right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the Rolex story? Because it has like a mythology, and the mythology is you got a Rolex, you made it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the mythology of it, right?
Yeah.
Because of the price point. And then there's also probably they've crafted some stories about like how well it's made.
They last forever.
They last forever.
Yeah.
Like that's been part of their story. Like it's all made in probably old Rolex, old Rolex commercials probably had somebody like Geppetto like fucking tinkering with this thing meticulously.
Yeah.
And then like that's a story that they told.
Yeah.
Or like I think Rolls-Royce, they still tell the story about how it's handmade by someone who looks like Batman's butler who's like making every single Rolls-Royce himself.
Yeah.
And you see car makers do that where they have like some Japanese artisan making the new Mazda model out of clay, and like carving it like you would be doing calligraphy or something.
Yeah.
I guess all of those are like subtle little stories.
I guess so. I mean, and I think like why some brands succeed and some brands fail is it's not enough just to be telling stories. The story has to be endemic to who you are as a person or to the brand. And then you have to be consistent with that story over time. So like if you think of a brand like Reebok, like what's Reebok's story? Who knows?
I don't know. They fucked over a bunch of UFC fighters.
Okay, well,
like that's one bad story.
That's one bad story,
and that bad story really hurt him.
Yeah,
that bad story. Like apparently, this is all hearsay, and I don't know shit about shit. So but the hearsay is that the president of the conglomerate that owns Reebok and like a bunch of other big brands as well. I think Adidas as well.
Yeah, they're in there, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, that was one of the biggest mistakes we made because the athletes that we wanted to be stoked about Reebok, which was been the best way to tell the story, to have all of these people that are heroes, looking at that you want, which are all the UFC fighters. The win would have been all of them going like, oh yeah, Reebok, like they came in and it's so awesome. But meanwhile, the way that it worked out, it took away all of their sponsor money and they didn't compensate it enough with enough money. So the fighters were bummed. It wasn't that Reebok was a bad product, but that they were just bummed that they got less money. So then they were telling a negative story about Reebok and it hurt them.
Right.
Like that, the stories that were told because of that.
It would have been better for them not to be involved in anything.
It would have been better for them not to be involved at all because the stories then turned negative. And that's the power of stories too. Like a negative story.
Yeah.
Like Richard Gere had a story that he got a gerbil caught in his butt. Like that didn't help his career. That's a
bad fecal transfer right there.
I'm pretty positive that didn't happen.
No, I don't think that happened.
I don't think that happened.
No.
But that was a story that came out. And then like, I know there was a rapper, Trinidad James.
Yeah.
And there's this story that was kind of had some photographic evidence that he shit his pants when he was on stage, right? That wasn't a good story that came out. But like people will take these stories.
Yeah.
And then they will, like you said, they'll ignore the facts of the matter.
Yeah.
That Reebok's still making dope stuff and that Trinidad James, like we all shit our pants. I shit my pants all the time. Like, does that make him worse rapper? No, just maybe he did, maybe he didn't.
Right.
Who cares? We all shit,
right.
you know, but nonetheless, that story was pervasive enough
that
it can either negatively or positively affect you or your brand in a huge way.
Yeah. In a big way, when you have those instances come out, it's how you respond that matters. You know what I mean? Like, how do you respond when something like that happens? Because like an example is, Walmart did this contest with Pitbull where they're trying to get likes on Facebook. And if whatever Walmart store got the most likes, Pitbull was going to do a concert there. And so these jackasses created this like subversive campaign to get Kodiak, Alaska, that Walmart to get like the most likes so that they'd have to fucking fly Pitbull like from Miami or wherever to Kodiak, Alaska and perform in front of like 3 people. And the way like Walmart and Pitbull handled it was he likes that one.
That's so clever from people.
So the way they handled it was Pitbull's like, I'll go fucking anywhere for my fans. And then the guys that created the campaign, he flew them with him to Kodiak, Alaska, and he played in front of like 10 people and did like a concert. So like they turned a negative story that could have been like, screwed the campaign up, and they flipped it. On the counter, McDonald's, I think it was like in Canada, they did something where you could name a burger. They did like an online campaign, and people were naming like "Pound Me From Behind" burger, and like, like all this like really shitty stuff that was bad. It's hard to talk when he's laughing.
Pound me from behind burger.
Yeah.
Get the quarter pound.
That's a quarter pounder, pound me from behind burger. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me how they turned that one around.
Oh, they just shut the whole thing down.
They shut it down.
They just like acted like it never happened, which is like when you do the Reebok thing, the way to counter that is pay those fuckers
pay the fighters separately.
Pay them all separately and make a big deal about how you were wrong and like turn it into a positive story. Don't let it like sit out there in the, I don't know what Trinidad should have done, but I
don't know, just
been like, I give my fans so much, I shit my pants for them,
look, listen, I'm performing so hard
exactly.
that I will shit my pants and keep performing. Like I'm telling you, Jay-Z shits his pants. He's going backstage and changing his pants, not me.
Right.
I'm finishing my set.
Right. My concert's so good, people shit their pants, including me. Yeah, so that's how you would do that.
So there's there's a crossover a little bit between PR and advertising to a certain degree, right?
It's all messaging, And I think before we got sidetracked on the pound me from behind thing is so consistency. So Reebok changes their message like every 2 years to whatever, like all of a sudden they're about they had like the pump, like females working out and they care about their butt. Then it's about Tough Mudder races because those were hot, Spartan races. Mm-hmm. So they're all about that. They're chasing. And so they make the same thing. Reebok shoes, say Nike shoes, like comparable,
Mm-hmm.
But because no one knows what the hell they stand for, they end up standing for nothing. Like, why is Reebok doing like those kind of, why are they sponsoring that type of stuff?
Right. Is it consistent with their purpose? Is it consistent with their story?
When you don't know what you stand for,
right,
you're all over the fucking place. And you're not true to what you are. You just end up being nothing.
You stand for everything. You stand for nothing.
Yeah, exactly right. And obviously Nike's an easy example everyone uses, but over time, you know exactly where that brand's coming for and what they stand for and what they're going to be about. And that brand's obviously crushing it, you know?
And if you do decide to make a pivot, you got to really go all in. Like, I think one of the successful pivots obviously has been the Domino's pivot, right?
Yeah, they've been amazing.
Like that's got to be like a case example from that a lot of advertisers use of like how to do something dope, right? Like how to.
And then the first pivot they did, back to like the other conversation, is they came out and they're like, we know our pizza sucks.
Yes.
You know, they're like, our pizza sucks and we admit it. So we're doing all these changes. And that's their story. You know?
That was kind of when they said that, everybody was kind of like, damn.
It creates trust, right?
Good for you.
Because they're acknowledging the issue, you know, it creates trust with the audience.
And then when because food advertising, you know that the food doesn't look anything like what you see on the commercials, you know? So and it's true. It's like the way that if you actually go into how they create that, it's like they're using like blow torches and like colors and like spray paints, and they're like doing all kinds of weird shit to make food look a certain way that it's not that way at all.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so this thing kind of flipped it on its head. And then because they said something so vulnerable and so like honest and what people were kind of thinking anyways.
So true.
Then
vulnerable is exactly right.
And then when they showed their pizzas, you're looking like, pizza actually looks pretty good. And you believe them.
Right.
Because they've engendered that. They've engendered that trust.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a lot of authenticity. Like that's really what personal persuasion is, and building character is being able to be vulnerable and being yourself and building those relationships. That's what matters, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I want to keep talking about these different other iconic things. So like from your perspective, all right, so let's look at Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Right? Taco Bell does a bunch of they do a bunch of weird stuff. And I wonder if I don't know if you do you guys like study like how because Taco Bell's done a bunch of stuff. They like did some weird Taco Bell Illuminati campaigns and these like weird kind of storytelling, you know, kind of half joking, half conspiracy theory, weird stuff. And then they'll do other weird things where they'll make like the Cheeto or the Dorito tortilla, you know, taco or whatever. And like, it's all very interesting, but it is a little bit inconsistent and a little bit weird, but it at least seems like, well, at least it's a little fresh in some ways.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I don't understand. Like, I don't know if I think the Domino's one is like a clear, like, all right, this wins.
Yeah.
And then I wonder if like Taco Bell is actually winning or if they're just kind of scrambling.
No, I think they're doing pretty well. And I don't know that much specifically about like the quick service retail industry, like that food type of thing. But I do know that a lot of it is about the next product, like how you boost sales is you come up with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Like every month or 2 months, you need to come out with now it's wrapped. Now you got to go to Taco Bell because the thing's wrapped in 5 tacos and a crunchy one behind it. And then it's all wrapped in a bean burrito. You know what I mean? That's all product innovation stories.
And maybe it's just weed that's driving all of the Taco Bell.
They should do a weed partnership. That
would be
amazing. That
would be like the first people to do that.
That's really smart.
Are going to be like, especially as now it's getting pretty much legal everywhere.
They should do that with ease, like delivery, like weed delivery with Taco Bell delivery. Boom.
Yeah, and just start off the commercial with people just high.
Yeah.
And like looking around and everything looks boring. You got like a loaf of bread and you got and then you got a Dorito wrapped chalupa. People are like, damn.
That looks good.
That looks good.
Yeah, totally.
I like that.
Exactly. Anyway, to pivot on something else, a lot of also, you know, where I'm coming from when we started sort of talking about the age of distrust, and you made that notion of like that partisan split earlier, like the Democrat Republican thing.
Yep.
You know, I don't think there's ever been a time in our history where that partisanship has been so divided.
Yeah.
Like it is now. And when it comes down to it, we're all fucking the same. I mean, you write about this a lot in what you put out there and in your emails, that we all kind of crave the same thing, you know, as people. Like, don't you think? I mean, we're like 99.9% have the same DNA.
Yep.
You know, we're like all 0.1% different.
Yep.
So if you think about how empathy, like that's one of the tenets, like empathy is so important in life and understanding the other side and your audience. And part of being empathetic is being able to be vulnerable and realize like, you know, we're really not all that different. We're all searching for the same things, I think, in life.
It's really interesting because people are so disgusted. Like you said, Congressman was at the very, the end of the list, right? Because politics they've been going black magic from the start. And one of the ways politically that you use black magic is you tell stories about the other side, you create an enemy. It's the same in war propaganda, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at any war, you get the country behind the people you're fighting by putting together a whole bunch of propaganda, creating outrage, creating fear, creating all of these different things. You get people behind the war efforts, or you get people behind your political party by using all of these black magic tenets. But eventually people get so disgusted with it. Like, I think we're probably reaching that level that somebody who comes out authentically, and like and that's going to be really interesting if like a Republican or a Democrat comes out and authentically is like, yo, like everything we've been doing is like fear mongering, disruptive, you know, deunifying bullshit, and everybody's been doing it. We've been doing it. Like,
you think someone can win that way?
I think eventually the disgust will get high enough that the only way, like that will be the disruptive move that creates enough trust that I think it could create, hopefully, like the reactions. But
because it would have to be strong enough and work in that world, because that world is, you know, soulful persuasion is very different than what we're talking about in that world, which is all like negative. It's all negative persuasion.
Right.
You know,
it's all telling bad stories about the other.
And it goes back to the Lyndon B. Johnson ad in 1964. There's this famous ad called Daisy. And it's how he won the election. I think it was Barry Goldwater he was facing. And it was a girl picking a daisy, like picking flowers in a field, like beautiful young blonde girl picking daisies. And then a nuclear bomb goes off. And like the whole screen goes, it's like, poof. You know, this is like 1964. And it was basically like, vote for me, motherfuckers, or you're not going to be safe.
Yeah.
And that's negative persuasion. And when that in the political landscape, when you see that kind of idea, it's that black magic works so well, you know? Gets him elected, leading up to like you got Trump calling the candidates, you know, names like, you know what I mean? Like little Marco Rubio, like crooked Hillary, and that negative persuasion like sticks, you know, and it works. And I think that ad sort of set off a firestorm of like, oh shit, like we can scare people to win. We can talk badly about the other person. We don't have to, gloves are off. It doesn't have to be civil, you know? And I think, could a candidate now, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Could a candidate now come in and go succeed? Or do they have to use the same tactics to get there, you know?
Eventually I think the black magic loses its value because people become aware of the trick. Like as soon as you become aware of the trick, then the trick no longer works. And it's about enough people, a critical mass of enough people being aware that like, black magic, gross. You know, like, and that, like, eventually. I
wonder how you show that to people.
Yeah, that'll be the interesting question.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna have to be real, and it's gonna have to be like really true.
Because you have to get through. In order to win and move up, you have to like.
And that's the thing. You have these entrenched. You have these like entrenched parties that you need their support, and you need. It's gonna be one of the last ones to crack, but I think. The companies that are doing it, you know, these are easier because there's so much natural competition, right? Part of the problem with the political system is there's basically a two-party monopoly.
Yeah.
So it's one versus the other, and everything else doesn't count. And then those parties actually, to suppress the other parties, have said, oh, it's a wasted vote if you vote for anybody else, because you're wasting a vote. You're doing all this. They're creating stories why you shouldn't vote for the libertarian candidate, or you shouldn't vote for this other person. You're wasting it. How dare you? You know, like you're actually hurting
So true.
So like all of these stories come
Yeah.
into play, but I think eventually you'll have to bust through all of that and create the natural competition in education, and then have enough people aware of these black magic tendencies.
It's going to take like someone famous to like have that third party that people respect. Someone big enough to break that up. But it would all change if you had three parties, you know?
It would all
change. It would be like
the whole dynamic would shift. And that's the natural value of having our economy like it is. Yeah. Like Alaska Airlines, for example, one of your clients, like it has to hustle and do good, you know, to continue to succeed.
They got to do something better than
they got to do something. They got to do something better.
It's got to be price, service, speed, you know, timeliness, whatever.
Yeah.
Entertainment. Like they got to do something that's better than the other guy. Yeah. That creates competition. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's I think whenever you try to control that, that's when I think things become kind of quagmired and a clusterfuck. And I think like when people have these untouchable platforms, that's when it becomes a problem. When it's like, this is the only option, well, then they can pretty much do whatever you want, or like the options are really limited. And but I think all of that's going to change. I think what we're seeing now working in advertising and marketing, and like what you're talking about in your book, it's going to start applying universally. Yeah, it will eventually have to, because people are onto it, and people are talking to each other, and people are like getting, you know, they're becoming more aware.
I mean, it's become like brands can no longer be successful without standing for something and being authentic. You know, like the gig is up. Like they have to be truthful and authentic, or they'll go out of business. And I think, you know, maybe that'll start to spill over into all aspects. We'll see. But it starts from the consumer. It starts from the audience. That's who it comes from. You know, that's who has to push. That's who's pushed the brands to do it from an advertising standpoint. You know?
Yeah, it's really occasionally there's an innovator who leads. But a lot of times it's just the pressure that comes from the consumer, everybody voting with their dollars, with what they're willing to buy and what pizzas they want to get, or what airline tickets they want to book, or whatever they want to do. They'll push the market a certain way, and then some people will be ahead of that and some people will be lagging behind it. Yeah. You know, and the more that people lag behind it, the more new people will be able to leapfrog them.
That's right. Yeah, and they'll stand for something and capitalize and be successful.
Yeah. How can somebody who's not involved in running their own business, not involved, like what are the things they can get out of the Soulful Art of Persuasion themselves? Like,
so I mean, I wrote it as sort of a handbook for anyone. It's very broad, but there's really, in my belief, there's 11 habits that people can learn, and all those are just things that you repeat over and over to be successful in business and for personal growth. And so I just put those down and into the book, and tips and tricks. And so there's, you know, the 4 basic principles are being original, which is learning how to totally be yourself and leaning into it. Fly your freak flag. Don't be ashamed.
Yep.
Generosity, which is really important, which is trying to give something away at every interaction habitually. So whether it's advice, time, energy, sometimes a gift, but really trying to be a generous person. Empathetic, which we talked a lot about. Empathy, understanding the other side. And then soulfulness really comes down to, you know, skills and purpose, those 2 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of these things that we're talking about for brands, like we're all kind of in a way our own personal brand.
Definitely.
You know, and I think what I've found, you know, having one of the bigger, I mean, not as far as like the biggest of the big, but a big enough personal brand that has built itself on authenticity and transparency. The things that people like the most are when I show not like the glorious side of things, like I can show me doing something awesome and people will be like, "Yay, good for you. It's awesome." But then I like post a picture of me looking sad as shit and be like, hey, I've struggled with depression on and off for most of my life, and today I'm super depressed, and this is why, and it's an opportunity for this, and just much love to everybody out there who experiences that. And then the feedback from people is like, oh man, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like, I really appreciate that
Yeah.
the most. And I think that's something that we're all starting to become able to learn, as well as that the things that we think that people want to see are no longer what people want to see.
Yeah.
They want to see the things that are true.
They want to see the real you.
They want to see the real you.
And the real you will always succeed over the projection of you, or the you want to feel like you're putting out.
And it's always
to the
going to
world.
feel better too,
Yeah.
because anybody who loves the real you, you're going to feel it because you're going to know it's you.
Yeah.
So if you're loved for the real you, then you really feel the love. If you're loved for that fake ass you that you're putting out there,
right.
then you're just getting love for something fake.
I always think of that Oscar Wilde quote, be yourself, everyone else is taken.
Yeah.
Like if you're not truly yourself, and you're not afraid to talk about your ups and downs, what your belief set are, your weird quirks, the shit you're into, then you have no way that you're going to connect with people, and people are going to open up to you. Like when you post something like that, people start sharing.
Yeah.
And they start sharing because you
permission.
were vulnerable to do that, and you were putting your real self out there. Yeah. That's really what it's all about. That's what personal character is all about.
Amen to that. Well, shit, man.
Yeah, man, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good hanging.
Let me see if I can drink water again. That was really fun.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
Mechanism, The Soulful Art of Persuasion, out September 10th
Good memory.
on all of the different platforms. Did you read your own audiobook?
What? You did, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
That's hard work, actually.
I thought it was a nightmare.
It's hard ass
Well,
work.
I had a director in there. Did you ever? And
two
he's like,
people. I had a sound technician and a producer.
Yeah.
And director.
I did not enjoy that. I was like, oh, it's going to be so easy.
No.
All I have to do is read, and they're like, could you celebrate that comma more?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Celebrate that comma, Or like, could you act excited on that last line, And you're like reading it over and over and over. That was tough, man.
It's some of the hardest work that I've actually done, and that seems like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
But like it's weird. And then sometimes you'll think you nailed it, and then I'd have my sound technician be like, we got a stomach gurgle in there, Can you repeat? Like a stomach gurgle?
What is that?
What?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Oh man, that's
cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
I'm
on
glad
Audible.
I did that. Yeah, it's on Audible. Yeah.
It's so much better when
Yeah.
it's you when it's the author.
I think
who's
so.
reading it.
Yeah, but when you hear your own voice, you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
is that what I sound like?
The only difference is like I've gotten some fiction books on Audible where they have like real actors or actresses do it, and they can like play the characters' voices really good. It's like, because a normal author can't do that if they're not an actor and actor. So I think fiction, it makes sense because there's like, and then this person said this and this, and you can just like have characters being played.
Yeah,
that's dope. But for any nonfiction, I think it's always the move.
Yeah. I mean,
have the author read it.
That's the real me. I should be reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had some
Just
dude
like
with a British accent.
Yeah.
The soulful art of persuasion. That wouldn't be right. That'd be the fucking whole wrong thing.
Yeah,
the whole thing would have been like,
the whole thing would be a lie.
okay.
Yeah, all right, this motherfucker. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Well, good shit.
Yeah, man, that was awesome.
Absolutely, brother.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We love you. And check out the book. And if you're fucking want to work with somebody who's obviously crushed it and has the dopest office I've ever seen, look at Mechanism, too.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right, brother. Peace.
Later. Peace.